All right. Welcome to today's interview. My name is Reilly with the Department of Health and Wellness. Today, my guest is Spencer Sherman, a psychology professor at Santa Barbara City College and longtime meditator. Thanks for joining, Spencer.
You're welcome, Sean.
Do you mind giving us a little bit of information about your background and the kind of work that you're doing these days?
Okay. I suppose I should start with when I learned meditation, which was at Esalen Institute in Big Sur in 1976. Jack Kornfield had just returned from Southeast Asia and was the meditation master for a 40-day retreat at Esalen, of which I was a part. And that's when I learned to sit. And these days, what I'm doing is still teaching, still sitting, and still teaching meditation to whomever is wanting to learn. And teaching at Santa Barbara City College, both general psychology and positive psychology, and seeing clients around issues having to do with personal growth and development.
Awesome. So we can just jump right into these questions. I think there's this association between meditation, mindfulness, and enlightenment experiences. So my question is a broad one. What is enlightenment, and can beginners have an enlightenment experience?
As I'll just answer it based on my limited understanding, okay? As I understand it, enlightenment has to do with an opening of the sense of self and a thinning it out so that there's less sense of separateness from other people in the world, and there's more feeling of connection and unity. So I don't see it as there may be stages of it, but I don't see it as an end goal. I see it as a process of opening and deepening and connecting ever more completely. So given that, we all have experiences of enlightenment all the time when we forget about ourselves and we connect with other people or what we're doing. We just generally don't hang out in those experiences. I think the value of meditating and other disciplines that you can do is that it makes those openings and connections more available. So I think that enlightenment it means a gradual lightening up of the darkness of the sense of self that protects us, so that more light from other people in the world can come through, and more light can come out of us. That's the way I see it, anyway.
It's very interesting the way that you talk about the self. Can you kind of speculate a little bit on, let's see, there must be some advantages of having this notion of self. And it sounds like enlightenment, as you described it, is this gradual kind of tuning down of the self. How do you think about that discrepancy between the positive aspects of having self and the more negative ones?
So that's a perceptive question, Sean. If you look at the Eastern way of looking at things, it's a transcending of the self. It's no self. If you look at the Western ideal, it's strong self. So how do you put these two together? I think what's happening now is very exciting, which is there's a new understanding coming which marries East and West, the traditional understandings. And Abraham Maslow kind of got it right in the 1950s when he talked about the fact that self-actualizing people, they have a very strong sense of self. They have a great uniqueness of self. But that sense of self is a broader, more inclusive sense of self. So it's not that you get rid of yourself, it's that you make yourself a more secure sense of self and a stronger sense of self and a more effective sense of self. And so you don't have to dwell so much on yourself because yourself is working with other people in the world. So there's more energy available to connect and to make effect in the world. So I think the sense of self develops and broadens and opens. So you become stronger and at the same time more connected. So it puts together East and West in this beautiful way of you can be yourself. You don't have to lose yourself, but your sense of self is less about yourself. You're less neurotic, me, and you're more how can my energy flow out into other people in the world?
Yeah, it's beautiful. It's almost paradoxical in a way, just what you said about the self-expanding and actually depending less on your egotistical sense of self and more so on this. It sounds like a community self.
Yeah, or it's a self that isn't so defended, closed off, self-protective, self-aggrandizing. The self basically is secure. So it doesn't need to, you don't need to put all that energy into constructing that wall. It's much more like as somebody said, a semi-permeable membrane. Things can get in and get out pretty easily.
Wow, that's great. So the second part of that question, can beginners or people just getting into meditation experience this sort of loss of self or anything close to what you've been describing?
Oh, absolutely. Um, uh, it doesn't take very long when you sit to have some distance from yourself, to be with your breathing and to notice your thoughts and feelings going by. And so you're kind of loosening the grip of those habitual absorptions. And when you do that, there's more room for yourself to get out and other people to get in. So, oh, sure. Probably even in the very first session where people are just learning, they calm down and they kind of come out of that tension which we walk around in. And as they calm down, they kind of feel more open, more expansive. So there's already a sense of I'm larger than those personalities, thoughts and feelings that I'm watching. And then there are sometimes there are profound experiences, which can't be predicted. But sometimes beginners have these amazingly unitive experiences, and they're just grace. They're just a wonderful indication of what can be more frequently experienced later on.
Awesome. I'm a little bit curious about kind of the more reliable benefits that one can expect from meditating. Can you kind of maybe give us a list, or what have you noticed that strengthens and develops as you begin and get into a habit of meditating?
I guess the most reliable benefit is that you can become calmer. That is, you sit down and these days we really need this. You sit down and you feel how roiled up you are and how tense you are and how worried you are and how pained you are, and you think to yourself, this will never work. I'm sitting here doing nothing, paying attention to my breathing. How's that going to help anything? But you know enough to keep coming back to your breathing and keep letting yourself soften and open, and come back to your breathing, let yourself soften and open. And after a little while, you begin to feel a little bit less tense and a little bit more settled and a little bit more aware of your thoughts and your feelings and your body states, and you keep doing it for a few more minutes, and you just get a little bit more or a lot more calm. So that's the benefit that is available to pretty much everybody, pretty much at the beginning. Then a little further along, there's a much more reliable sense of being able to watch your thoughts and your feelings and your sensations without being immediately absorbed by them, caught up in them. So that witnessing awareness comes and goes. Sometimes you can't find it at all because it's just too much that's pulling you in. But with practice, you get a better and better sense of there's an awareness that you are that's deeper than and more larger than the patterns that you experience, the thoughts, feelings, and sensations you experience. So those are the two most basic kinds of. Oh, and I should say also, when you have this freedom from being immediately caught up in yourself, your thoughts, your feelings, and your sensations, then there's also more possibility to make different choices, to think differently, to feel differently, to act differently. And so you become less unconsciously and automatically you, and you have more sense of electing who and how you are.
That's amazing. It sounds like you talked about some of the benefits. The first being the sense of calmness.
Right.
The second one being just better able to recognize the mind states that you go through and how transient they are. And lastly, it sounds like you're better able to discern what's going on in your experience and move forward in a wise way.
Yeah, and choose more healthy ways of thinking, feeling, and acting. Yeah, yeah, that's exactly right, Sean.
How long does it take for a beginning meditator to experience these benefits? I know that you mentioned the sense of calm can kind of come online almost immediately, but is there a certain time course for beginners to notice something different in their experience from day to day?
It varies a lot with the person, and it's not a linear kind of progression. There are days that you think, God, I'm the worst meditator in the world, and other days that you have a really satisfying meditation. So it's not so cut and dry, but in general, this is kind of a guesstimate. When you're first learning, there's a rapid learning curve. That is, you learn to pay attention to your breathing, you learn to soften and open, and kind of calm down and open up. And you can do that pretty well most of the time. And you can also kind of discern, if for a while it's not clear what a thought is. You kind of don't hear your thoughts or see your thoughts terribly clearly. Then after a while, there's a click, and you go, "Oh my God, I can hear my own thoughts. I can see my own thoughts." And I can certainly discern my sensations when I'm hearing, when I'm itching, and then probably later on, there's a more palpable sense of the feelings. Those are a little bit more subtle to get a feeling for, but there's a good progression, at least with the realizing what you're thinking and what you're sensing. And then frequently, in my experience, there's a plateau. That is, you sit and you don't get any more benefit and you feel like you're not doing it right. That's when a lot of people quit. They say, well, I thought I was going to get enlightened here, and nothing's happening, and I'm not having very satisfying sittings. And the counsel is every sitting is practice. And it's all going toward rewiring your brain in a beneficial way, learning a skill. And you just have faith that your teachers aren't wrong and all the literature isn't wrong. And you go through plateaus, but if you just keep doing your sittings and accepting whatever you get from them, that over time you'll see a clear progression. And you do, over time, you realize, gosh, I really am much more self-aware than I was. I'm really less caught up than I was. I'm really a lot calmer than I was. I'm really a lot more present as I walk around in my life. I'm not lost in thought all the time. And you can count on that. It's just a question of, it's not a linear progression. And so you have to kind of accept the fact that it's going to happen in its time, and there'll be times when you feel like you're losing ground, but you're not. Every sitting is a sitting. The way that think Jack Kornfield told me this when I said, Jack, I've been sitting all this time and I'm doing all this work and I'm not, where's enlightenment? And he said, look, Spence, it's like you're inside this statue of yourself made out of concrete, okay? And you can't see out of it and the light can't get into it. And it's a thick concrete statue of self. But every time you meditate, he said, it's like there's this little tiny Zen monk inside. And every meditation you do is like she or he takes a little tiny chip off that inside of that statue. And eventually what happens is the statue gets a lot thinner and you can see out better and you can see in better. And then eventually there's a click and the whole thing falls apart. I await that day.
As do I. I think that kind of bleeds perfectly into the next question. You were mentioning things along the lines of, oh, you just notice that you're more self-aware, you notice you're less caught up. So how does one know that they are actually becoming better at meditation, and how do you measure progress in a meditation practice?
That's a hard question. I think you can't measure progress day by day. I think the measure of progress is over time. That is, you think to yourself, I'm a lot better at finding my breathing now and staying with it a lot longer than 5 seconds, and I'm a lot clearer about what I'm thinking than I used to be. And I'm a lot more in touch with my feelings than I used to be. And I'm a lot, when I sit, I can kind of open up and calm down a lot more effectively than I used to. And so it becomes clear as time goes on that something is happening, that your brain is acquiring this new ability, and that it is influencing your life. But the caveat is, you can't expect every sitting to be an enlightenment, and you can't even expect any effect. You just have to say, look, this is practice, and each time I practice, I accept whatever is happening, whatever I experience, and I have faith that because I have very good teachers, and I have done reading, and I realize that this will, that nobody fails at this. That this will eventuate in its time in the things I want.
Do you have any recommendations? You mentioned having faith in your great meditation teachers. Would you point any beginning meditators to certain teachers or certain types of meditation or apps that you may recommend?
First, overall, yeah, sure. Overall comment is there's a lot of really good teachers, and there's a lot of really good stuff out there. I'm sure there's stuff that's not so good, but meditators are a wonderful lot, and they're usually extremely clear and extremely well expressed and extremely well motivated. So it's hard to go wrong. The teachers, certainly you want to, or I would look at the teachers that are really well known, like Jack Kornfield, and Pema Chodron, and Tara Brach, and if you go to SoundsTrue.com, all the great teachers, or many of the great teachers are there. Apps I don't know so well, but I have heard that there are some very, very good ones, and it's helpful to have guidance for sure. And it's also helpful to have a sangha. That is, to not be doing this alone, because you think you're going wrong, you lose heart. But when you're sitting with other people, it encourages you to actually do your sitting and not just go to sleep. And the dialogue with other people keeps you going, and it's very inspiring. So they say that you need 3 things. You need the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Sangha. You need the Buddha, meaning you need the practice. Whether you're a Buddhist or not makes no difference at all. You need to do some mental training. it is clear that to become an aware human being, you need to learn something. It not just happens by itself. You have to make the effort. If you're going to become a basketball player, you need to learn to play basketball. Okay? If you want to work your mind in an optimal way, you need to learn to do that. So you need to kind of do a practice. But the Dharma is you need to understand what you're doing. You need to do some reading or some learning from people that know, who can instruct you, can say, this is how it works, and this is why you're doing what you're doing, and these are the stages of it. So you need the intellectual knowledge as well as the practice, and then you need the cohorts. You need the people around you who are learning with you, because they inspire you to keep going, and they support one another. So I think those things are really important, whether you do it over Zoom or whether you do it face to face. I think that it's important to have a community that you sit with. In Santa Barbara, we have wonderful communities that now are Zoom, but frequently are face to face, that really support one another. It's wonderful. But you can find those communities anywhere, and you can certainly find them online. As for guided meditation, I think it's very helpful at some points, but I don't personally want to be dependent on it. I want to be able to sit whenever and wherever I need to, without having to plug in any way. So I think there's great value in learning to take what you've experienced on an app and then trying it without the app. And there was another part to your question about, I think the last part of your question, I don't remember. Oh, tell me.
I forgot as well.
Okay, so let's think for a minute. So it was about using these various tools that you can use, and tuning into various teachers.
I think it was just recommendations of apps, or you mentioned the different sanghas around Santa Barbara.
And that you can find online. So we did cover that. Okay. There was something at the very end. You said something else, but I don't remember what it was. So, maybe it was how you measure your rate of progress or something like that. But we talked about that.
Mm-hmm. How would you address maybe some folks in the younger generation, or just skeptics in general, that are kind of wary of the more spiritual or religious roots of meditation practice? What if someone they want to come at it at a more secular point of view and kind of divorce the two? Is that possible? What does that look like?
Okay, so I remember the question, for what it is that you asked me at the end. And so these two questions, what you just asked me dovetails with that, which is a more secular view, or a different, less spiritual view. But what you asked me was different kinds of meditation. And what I'll say about that is, there are various kinds of meditation, and they seem to be all valuable. And each person is different. So each person is going to come up with a different menu of meditations. And I think that's very important, just to realize that there's no one formula. It's you're unique. You're going to make your own formula. In general, the world's meditations break down into two categories. Most meditations are concentration meditations. They involve focusing on something and letting go of awareness of everything else. For example, focusing on a mantra, or focusing on a candle flame, or focusing on an image of a deity or a saint or somebody you love. And those concentration meditations are very powerful. They make particular effects. By concentrating on something, you get an effect from that. So those are most of the meditations you've heard about in the world. And meditation, most broadly, is just directed awareness. It's just consciously directed awareness. So prayer, for example, is a concentration meditation. The other kind of meditation is mindfulness, open awareness meditation when after you concentrate on your breathing to get a focus for your awareness, then you open your awareness to notice whatever is occurring on whatever level. So you notice your thoughts, your feelings, and your sensations, and awareness itself as you are wide open with your awareness. So I think that ability to have wide open awareness is extremely valuable. And so what I teach people, my students, is to learn that open awareness, that ability to notice whatever's happening as it's happening. And then on top of that, to put various concentration meditations, to elect to take your awareness and think something through. Focus only on your thoughts and go step by step by step to give you a brilliance, you know, or to focus immediately and strongly on your feelings and see what they are and how they develop and how they move and what they bring with them. Or to focus on an area of your body and imagine healing light in it, or move energy into it. So all these concentration meditations on a foundation of open awareness can create wonderful effects. For example, mindfulness-based cognitive therapy has to do with being mindful first and then changing unhealthy thoughts, recognizing and changing them. And I think it works better than cognitive therapy by itself because the mindfulness gives you a very good focus and a very strong ability to concentrate. So those I think it's great to play with all the different kinds of meditation and see which ones you like. But I think ultimately you want to learn, or I would suggest learning mindfulness, open awareness meditation as an embrace of all the particular kinds of meditation that you can add to it. Okay.
Yeah, that's really interesting. I never heard of mindfulness or open awareness as being kind of foundational to these more directed forms of awareness. And would you say that it's important to establish that foundation first before you can effectively go into a more directed form of awareness and extract the benefits of doing that?
No, I think most people actually go the other way. Most people start with an app or a directed form of meditation, and that's very helpful to them. It calms them down. It clears them up a little bit. And so for a lot of people, the directed forms are what they consider to be meditation. But I think there's a step beyond that. And so I teach mindfulness first and then the directed forms. But other people start with the directed forms. It's just important to realize that there's more than particular concentrations. There's an ability to open awareness completely and to choose concentrations appropriately.
Great. And then could you tie that into people that are approaching mindfulness from a more secular perspective?
Yeah, that was where we're going next. I'm very kin to those people. Like a lot of people, I fled formal religion, and I don't want the same old wine in a brand new bottle, So I consider myself a Buddhist, but not a spiritual. Buddhism it informs my psychology. The psychology of Buddhism I like. I'm a psychologist and trained as a scientist, and will always be a scientist. And the people I like to work with are really hard-headed engineers and scientists who don't want any of that spiritual stuff. But what I tell them is, look, this is psychology. This is about how you work your mind. This is what we should have learned when we were 3 years old, and we can actually teach it to 3 and 4-year-olds now. This is, they gave you a mind, but they didn't give you an owner's manual. This is how you use these tools in the best way. This will make you smarter. It will not make you dumber. It will not make you not have thoughts. It will not make you an airhead. It will not make you believe things that you can't believe. It will make you more conscious, more present, more effective, more brilliant, absolutely, more creative. This is how you wire your brain in an optimal way. And if you listen to various teachers, you'll see that they're not, they're pretty smart. They use words and thoughts really, really profoundly. So I don't think it's necessary to have any kind of spiritual bent at all. I think this is about learning to use your mind well. Alan Wallace once said to me that, look, we should just call this awareness training because that's what it is. Just training. Most people don't even know that their attention is different than their thoughts. They're so fused that they don't even realize their attention is moving around all the time without their awareness. They're just, you're being aware of this, then that, then the other thing, and you don't even know that, and you think constantly. So you think you're your thoughts. You don't even realize that you're aware of your thoughts and that you're identifying with them. So this is so basic to how we understand our minds and use our minds that it's stunning that we're only now learning this. I consider this a great step forward for humanity. People have known this, special people have known this. Plato, people like that have known this throughout history. But the fact that this is now being disseminated in the common culture, this gives me hope, gives me faith that people will be more self-aware, more aware of others, and will work themselves and other people in the world better. I think that this is necessary for human beings to progress to the next level of humanity. And I'm greatly encouraged that it's happening for so many people are realizing the value of this. So this isn't about some kind of if you want to go further and understand these spiritual truths, then you take it in that direction. But if you just want to be a better person, a person that's more at home in yourself and more self-aware and more effective in the world and more open to other people, I think this is necessary.
Yeah,
I think this is meta therapy, META therapy. It's beyond therapy.
That's awesome. There were two things in there that I was hoping that we could kind of unpack a little bit. The first was you kind of listed off some of the things that meditation was not. The first question is, are there common misconceptions about the practice that can maybe hinder someone from progressing in the practice or just put it down altogether? And then the second one was when you were talking about identifying with your thoughts. What do you recommend to people starting out? It's very hard not to imagine that our thoughts are byproducts of our own minds and that they're saying something characteristic of ourselves. So how would you advise us to relate to thoughts, and how can we kind of create this distance between us and thinking?
Okay, so the second question is about thought and how you relate to thought, and the first question is, say it again.
Misconceptions about the practice, what the practice is not, what it is.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about that one first. People, when you're first starting, you come to your first meditation session and you think, oh, goody, I'm going to get enlightened now. I'm going to get angel wings. I'm going to sit down and get blissed out. It occasionally happens, but a lot of what happens is you get more self-aware. Oh my God, you realize how tense you are and how upset you are, and that's when people run away. They think, this is making me worse. I don't want to know this, and it made me more anxious. So the misconception that it's right away going to cure you or save you, I think that you need a teacher, and all the teachers will tell you this, is, look, you're going to have to go through a period of time when the self-awareness might be kind of uncomfortable. And you're not, you might get calm out of this session, but you might not even, you're going to have, this is something you're learning. When you're first learning to ride a bicycle, you get on the bicycle and you flop. You don't get off and ride the bicycle right away. And so for a while, you're going to skin your knees, But if you persist pretty quickly, you'll get a little distance from whatever you're experiencing, and it won't be quite so distressing sometimes. So that's the most important misconception, is that right away you're going to feel entirely different and better. And then with regard to your thoughts, at first thought accompanies awareness wherever it goes. So it's hard to distinguish awareness and thought. They're you hear a sound, your meditation teacher says, listen to the sounds now. And you hear a bird, and right away there's a thought in your mind, I'm hearing a bird right now, and you don't really hear the bird, you hear your thoughts, because you've had a whole lifetime of paying attention to your thoughts, an abstraction of reality rather than actual reality. So it takes a while for you to cleave your attention from what you're attending to, the searchlight from what's being illuminated. Your attention is like a searchlight. What's being illuminated is what you're attending to. And for a while, they're the same thing. But after a while, you begin to know what you're thinking. You hear your thoughts saying, oh, that's a car. Not that you still hear the car, you hear your thought. But after a while, you can kind of pay attention. Oh, no, wait a minute. Instead of smelling the rose and thinking that's a rose, it smells good. Why don't I smell it again and actually try to stay with the actual smell? And then you can start to distinguish the sensation from the thought. And then after a while, you begin to realize how many of your thoughts are not accurate. How much is going through your mind got in there from other people, from your parents, now it's in your own words. And you tell yourself that stuff and you believe that stuff, and it determines how you feel and how you act. And some of it is just wrong. It's just not helpful and sometimes hurtful. And so you begin to realize that your thoughts are not you. They're a function of your brain. They're audio files moving through your mind that are supposed to be interpreting the world. And sometimes they do their job well, and sometimes they don't do their job well, but they're an abstraction. They're not your actual life experience at this moment. That's an amazing thing about meditation, is you realize you've been in a thought bubble your whole life and you've never actually been present. And after a while, you can distinguish thinking about life versus looking at Sean right now and actually being present. Right here, right now, present. And that's like, they say it's like waking up. Supposedly Buddha is the guy that woke up. Buddha means the one who woke up. What do you wake up out of? An idea of life into the actual experience of moment by moment sensory awareness and awareness of thoughts and feelings of your life at this moment. It's like putting your feet on the ground for the first time. And that's one of the portals to enlightenment for sure.
Wow, there was a lot in that. That's amazing. I like what you said there about the thought being an abstraction about reality, and that we can experience it as such, as an abstract form of reality, but also tune into what really is there and what really is happening.
Now, I got to say something more about that now that you say this, which is smart people like you and most of us, we're going to try to understand meditation and the spiritual truths with our thoughts, because we've spent the whole lifetime depending on our thoughts to interpret life. So the minute I say, pay attention to your breathing, you're going to think, okay, I can pay attention to my breathing now. And you're actually going to be thinking, you're going to be paying attention to your own thoughts. And if you do feel your breathing, in an instant, you're going to go back to thought, yeah, I'm paying attention to my breathing now, but you're not paying attention to your thoughts. So people are going to go, especially really smart people, are going to go through a period of time when they try to understand what they're learning intellectually. And for some of those people, they're going to go through years of that. They're going to need Zen koans and all kinds of other things to tie their brain in knots before they finally let go of trying to figure it out and just surrender into whatever the instruction is. Just breathe, just soften and open. Just let yourself think, but don't get caught up in it. Just breathe and soften and open. And, you know, and that process of coming out of the thoughts and trying to understand everything intellectually, it might be a long process for some folks. Because they're so smart and they're so good at figuring out the world to a certain extent. But folks like that often have a difficulty with their feelings because you can't figure out your feelings. You can't stop your feelings by your thoughts. You're just going to suppress them. And it turns out that feelings are, they're the state of your organism at every moment. And it's kind of important to feel the state of your organism at every moment and learn from that. And you can't do that intellectually.
That's great. I wanted to make sure I left some time to get this last question in. How can meditation and mindfulness help us with the current situation and the changes linked with the COVID pandemic?
On an each of us level, on an individual level, it can help us come out of being so panicked, so caught up in our worries, so besieged by the news, so tense. We can spend a period of time every day, even if it's only a few minutes or throughout the day, to just find our breathing, to let ourselves soften and open. That's all, you know, that's all my practice is I just find my breathing and let myself soften and open. And then I notice whatever I notice. And that process of coming out of being caught up in these anxieties that we're so suffused by now, coming out of that is so relieving. It's so healthy. Collectively, as more and more people are more and more mindful, they'll be less likely to do incorrect things that are make things worse, and more likely to do things that make things better because they'll be more aware, more self-aware, more aware of others, more aware of consequences of their actions. My hope is that more and more of our leaders will be mindful. I know that there are some leaders, like Tim Ryan, for example, that actually talk in Congress about being mindful and about how useful it is in being a good leader. I would hope that there's more awareness on the part of our leaders. But whether there is or not, each of us individually has the opportunity and the responsibility to be more, less frightened, more open, more wise, and more compassionate. And the wisdom and the compassion, they just flow out of the practice of awareness.
That's great. What are some of the most compelling research findings from the mindfulness literature or from positive psychology that link mindfulness to just overall well-being?
I wish that I could tell you that the research was far along and very convincing. It's really in its very early stages. So the research findings, even though they're very enticing, we don't have confidence in them yet. You know, it may slow brain thinning, it may increase density in areas of the brain that are beneficial, but there's not enough evidence yet to really state that as more than something that needs to be investigated. The positive psychology literature is a little further along, but it's still also in its infancy. But we do know, combining them, we know things like mindfulness-based cognitive therapy. Changing one's unhealthy thought patterns really does tend to help with not having depression recur, for example. You know, so that there are a few things we can count on. It's clear that mindfulness is helpful in reducing the tension load in the body. It's physically restorative of the immune system. So there's reasonably good evidence for that. But at this point, if you need to be convinced by the research evidence, it's only notions. Okay? But if you want to be convinced that becoming more self-aware and more aware of others and more aware of how to function in the world, that is important, then talk to people that have been doing this, and they will have no doubt. They will say, the research will get there, but there's no doubt in my mind that mindfulness is essential. You know? And again, mindfulness in the sense of being more aware. You don't have to practice formal mindfulness. You have to do something that makes you more self-aware, aware of others, and aware of how we relate.
That's great. If you wouldn't mind, could you lead us in a short 5-minute guided meditation?
Sure. I don't know if it'll be exactly 5 minutes, but it certainly won't be more than that. And I'll be doing it too, so I'll have my eyes closed. And it's just very simple. So just simply sit in a comfortable yet upright way if possible. Best generally to have both feet on the floor rather than one leg crossed over the other. If you're lying down, lie symmetrically, so you're not having one leg crossed over the other, so that you're kind of symmetric and stable. And if you are sitting up, upright. And then feel the fact that you're breathing. Just feel what moves as you breathe. You'll probably notice that your belly moves the most. Of all the things you could notice having to do with your breathing, seems like your lower abdomen is rising and falling with your breathing. And that's because your diaphragm is moving up and down inside your chest. And every time it moves down, it pushes your belly out. And every time it moves up, it pulls your belly in. And that's how your lungs get air. So that's called diaphragmatic breathing, and it's very healthy. And to encourage that, you let your belly be soft so that it can move naturally. Don't try to change your breathing, just feel it. It will adjust itself. Whatever else you notice is perfectly okay. You don't have to change anything or do anything about anything. Just feel yourself breathing and let yourself begin to relax. Or if it's already beginning, let yourself continue to relax. So you don't make that happen, you just invite relaxation. You invite your body to release tension You invite your body to soften. If you're holding tension in your neck and shoulders, as many of us do, you invite your body to soften in the neck and the shoulders. And every once in a while, you feel your breathing. If you aren't continuously aware of it, just notice your belly rise and fall. And notice yourself relaxing, softening, and opening. Pay special attention to your face. Let your face soften. Generally, we hold an expression on our face when our eyes are open and we're moving around in the world. Let that expression melt. Let your face be soft. Let the muscles release. Especially let the muscles around your eyes relax, release, soften. So your face and your head and your neck and your shoulders softening and opening. And you can feel your breathing, most especially your belly rising and falling, but perhaps also your chest moving slightly as you breathe. Your chest moves also, but not as much as your belly. You can even feel that your neck and shoulders are involved a little bit. With the in-breath, your neck and shoulders rise and open a little. And with the out-breath, they fall and close a little. So it's really your whole torso that's involved in your breathing. Your belly, your chest, your neck and shoulders. And you can even feel the air coming in and out of your nostrils. And if your mouth is open, your mouth as you breathe. So notice your lip just under your nose. And feel with your breathing that the air comes in and out. So your whole body is opening and closing subtly and gently with your breathing. Your face, head, neck and shoulders, and now whole body, torso and lower body, softening and opening. You just notice your breathing, soften and open, and let everything be just as it is. Whatever you notice is perfectly fine. If you're lost in thought and have forgotten about your breathing, which is very natural, come back to your breathing, feeling your belly rise and fall, feeling your whole body open and close subtly with the breathing, feeling yourself gradually softening and opening, and noticing whatever enters your awareness. It's as though you're a wide open, unbounded awareness in which there are sensations of breathing, of your body softening and opening, and through which all sorts of other things can come. Sounds can come, thoughts can come, words or pictures in your head. Feelings might be passing through your heart and gut area. Whatever is happening, you just breathe continue softening and opening, and notice with your wide open awareness whatever you're experiencing. If you get lost in thought, come back to your breathing, to softening and opening, and to noticing. And when you're ready, you can open your eyes and feel again how peaceful and open you are. And come back to focusing outward on your environment.
Thank you, Spencer. That was great.
You're welcome, Sean.
Any last words of wisdom? Any final points of advice?
Just that if this speaks to a person of any age and any persuasion, I mean, it speaks to people, it's amazing variety of people. If this speaks to you, learn it. Connect with other people and really learn this. It will be like having a new life. It will really be like a movement from one way of being into a much more enhanced way of being. And you will be incredibly grateful that you learned it, and I'm sure you'll want to share it with others.
Thank you so much, Spencer. I think that's all the time that we have for today, but it was a pleasure being with you.
And with you. Be well, Sean. I'll speak to you soon, I hope. And everybody else that is hearing this, I hope you stay well and that you grow in happiness and understanding, wisdom, and compassion.
Thank you, Spencer. I'll be in touch.
You're welcome, Sean.
Have a nice day.
You too.